I'm 6 foot, but I'm standing on a bench that's about this tall because I got this thing up high enough so you guys can get a bit of an idea of where we are. We're in my uninsulated container in Australia. What could possibly go wrong with that? Welcome to RC-TNT's new metal cage.
This is the Losi King Sling. Well, I mean, there might be a couple of bits missing here and there, but hey, it's kind of it.
Here's the body for it. Now, why did I buy a car like this if I wasn't going to run the body it came with and I wasn't going to run the mud flinging tyres it came with? I mean, look at the size of these things. Well, I got these because when I got it last year, you couldn't buy the LMT in Australia. It just wasn't available. It is actually available now in very limited numbers if you're patient, if you wait. But when a store gets 1 or 2 in, they just sell out like that. So, King Sling it was for me. Now before I even ran it, I took this body off. It's brand spanking new, still has its plastic cover. And I did this because I just wasn't a huge fan, I guess. But I also knew that I'd be using this truck, like using it.
Not very good at it. Yeah.
I didn't want to ruin the body, just in case at some point I miraculously decided I liked it.
This is a 2-piece polycarbonate thing. It's like a lip there. And that, on many cars, if people own these, without a wheelie bar, it's going to scrape and dig, and that's going to get absolutely destroyed in no time at all.
So, this is the machine. Now, I have attached some 3D printed body parts. Before we talk about that, let's just roll back a little bit. What is it?
I knew I didn't really want a mud truck. What I wanted was a monster truck. So then I thought, hey, I like 3D printing, why don't we look online? And I found that Redbeard Ron on Thingiverse has made some panels. This is the hood part. He has some side, he made like a cab for it. So I printed that and I thought, you know, that's all right. What it really needed to finish it was to get the dash down, and it needed some rear panels. I mean, I mucked around for a bit just trying different shapes and things, but I wasn't quite happy for a little while. My process to make a body involves using calipers and one of these. And what I did was I took down where the holes were on the cage, and I just started measuring. I measured all the different holes and pictured what I wanted, and then I just got drawing and got printing. The first draft I made was close, but the second draft I'm pretty happy with. Well, I didn't stop there. I also know that the LMT has a few issues that need ironing out. I made some limiting straps out of paracord. 100 mils I think is what I was going for. That lets the shocks not completely extend. 105 mil would give you most of the extension here. I think 110 mil is what the shocks are, but I've just used 100 mil. Like I tied a bow line at each end to make it even. I didn't use the anchor points because of the knots I had. I've tried to just make it so it works well for this car. I also found a bumper on Thingiverse and printed that. So what we've ended up with is only about an extra pound of weight on top of 480 grams and change on top of the body, which for a big vehicle like this isn't so bad. I got the very last of the axle braces in carbon fiber, and I also found some kingpin retention pieces because these are going into plastic and I can see that they work themselves out. So I've bolstered the thing as much as I can. It still needs a few things. I know the steering is going to be a weak point, but I think now we've crossed that minimum threshold for driving the thing without worrying. So let me show you what I've ended up with.
This is a 3 and 4S capable monster truck, or in this case mud truck, again with these D&D Paddy 2.6 crazy mud tractor tires. This is supposed to be a mud truck that slings its way through mud. And if you buy the LMT, it's only rated for 3S. That's because, it's a fine line. This is a firmer 2800 kV motor. I think the LMT, I haven't looked it up in like a year, but it's not much higher than this. So the motor can take 4S even on the LMT, and I've read reports that the LMT, the Losi monster truck, can actually run 4S. It's more a question of what's the ESC going to do? How's it going to handle it? So just to be safe, they've recommended 3S only for that. This is 3 and 4S. Now, some of these panels are my own design, and some of them are designed by Redbeard Ron, I think it was, from memory. I also made the rears, and I've experimented with a few different kinds.
Without a wheelie bar, when it went backwards before, This is a two-piece polycarbonate thing. It's like a lip there, and that on many cars, if people own these without a wheelie bar, it's going to scrape and dig, and that's going to get absolutely destroyed in no time at all. So I'm kind of glad to not have that. No offense to any King Sling fans. If you're into this kind of truck, I'm not judging at all. I just personally am not a fan. So this is my second draft. That also helps protect it. They'll actually hit. Nope.
Now, the only thing to be aware of here is the body on the King Sling, the cage on it is slightly different to the LMT. So the hole positions for my panels are made for the King Sling and the orange one, Mudhog or whatever it is. The LMT, the one that Redbeard Ron made is for the LMT. So just letting you know that they are actually moderately cross-compatible. Just be prepared to do a little bit of tinkering, maybe a little bit of heating when you throw the screws in. The other thing to let you know is, just while I'm talking 3D printing, I printed the first batches in PETG. I recommend printing in PLA Plus because that gives you the extra plasticky, rubbery goodness. I've redone a few of these in PLA Plus, but we're still using PETG until I shatter it properly. It's a fairly solid platform, and it has, I'd say, two main weaknesses. The first weakness is these axles, which, I mean, you guys may know, if you're not new to my channel, you may know that I design cars now, and like RC cars. And I can tell you, I haven't done axles yet, but I don't know that I'd be making a three-piece axle that can break so easily. These broke when I drove this with, it was with these Proline Demolisher wheels. That's Proline part number 10187-15. That's these monster truck wheels that I replaced the stockers with, right? Hey dog. So you might notice I'm running alloy axles now. That's because I blew the plastic ones apart on my first run, second run actually. So these cracked. This is the front axle. I had another 3D printed bracket to help hold the knuckles together, and that worked. That didn't actually break on either of them. What broke was the plate that holds the knuckles on. There's only half of it left here, and also the whole back end of it. It wasn't from any kind of terrible landing, but it was from a few jumps, big jumps, but still, it was from a few jumps. So, if you're printing stuff and you've got the plastic, these little covers, they just pop on like this. They work quite well. They hold the hinge pins in just fine. They stop the hole from expanding, and that works. So just as a basic retainer, good. Print them in PETG. That would be better because it has more of a memory unless it gets hot. Now the other thing that you might consider is a carbon fiber plate that is a brace for the bottom of the axle. I'll put in the description where to get this. At time of purchase, I got the last one, but I'm sure they've made more, and you can 3D print your own version of this too. It sounded like a good idea in theory because it stops the whole axle from flexing outward. The downside was, even though I had it running on this as well, the downside was the kind of breakage I had was on this axis, whereas this thing holds it from flexing on this axis. So it stops it bending this way, but my problem was it broke that way. So these didn't actually help in this case. I think it might be better just to get the AliExpress, Banggood, whatever alloy axles that are out there. The downside of this though, and why I went with these things, which were 2/3 the price of the axles, was to keep the weight down. Because mass meeting the ground at speed is a problem. Mass and velocity equals money in RC. Dog. We've got plastic drive shafts with steel unis at each end. We've got really beefcake links. So from a drive perspective, and that's uppers and lowers as well, nothing wrong with these. The gears in these things are fine as well. Even the servo, which I think is working a little bit hard, it's the S614S, same heavy duty servo you see from Firma in a few of the Horizon cars now. It's fine. Now I said there are two main weaknesses to this car. The first was these axles that seem to be designed to fail. They look spectacular, but it's just a shame that they're in so many parts because they could be a problem. The other issue with this car is that it doesn't come with shock limiting straps. It does have wonderful sway bar in it. It's got these big links. It's got nice big shocks mounted in a thoughtful position. But the problem is there are no limiting straps, which I've now added, you can see. That stops the shocks from reaching full extension, because if you don't have those, the bangs that you're going to cop on this are going to pull the piston out through the bottom of the shock and or blow your shocks out, and that's front and rear. Now, one thing that Losi does do nicely for their shocks is it gives it protectors. Before I knock everything off the table. So underneath this thing, you've got protection for the shocks front and rear. That's great. But you do want to get those limiting straps. We've got the axles, we've got the limiting straps, so our stock shocks are going to be fine. The stock drive shafts and links are going to be fine. The rest of the drivetrain seems quite good. I like the car as it is. Now, back to the body. The other thing I stuck on was this alloy wheelie bar, because I was trying to work on a compromise of preserving the back of the body and the back of the car, but also, I don't know, I guess I was just experimenting. I like to experiment. So far, so good. I mean, it's taken the big crashes. It's only held on with 2 bolts in the back, and that's actually not a lot. It looks like it'd take more bolts on the LMT, but again, I'm pretty sure the frame and definitely this cage for the body, they're different for the mud trucks. Now, how do you get the body off? I think it's only 4. It's been a while since I've removed this. Here are 2 body pins, once I find the other one. Hang on. There we go. That's 2 of them out, and then the 2 at the back. Now, we've removed the 4 pins. The whole thing lifts out like so. If you want to remove the body completely, it's 2 bolts at the front, which I've integrated into the bumper. Uncensored motor, yep. And you don't need censored on a fast car like this. It comes with the EC5, and I'm pretty sure, yeah. So with this connector, you can't use the XT90. So just if you are, just a side note, if you're using XT 60s and 90s for most of your other models, if you have other models, be aware that the XT90 does actually fit into the EC5. But it doesn't hold particularly well, which is why there's Velcro here. This is from another car. But this also means I can charge on my XT60 charger, boom, pop it off and plug this guy into the car. So that's what we will do. Now this is a Z battery, 6 amp or 6,000 milliamp hour, 3S80C battery. And your battery tray has, they didn't quite finish designing it. It's bizarre, actually. They've got these funny little retention rectangle things, right? And they've got 3 sets of hooks that will hold these rectangular straps. There's also another one that goes over the top. You do actually need to have the cross ones and the top one. It's like they're not wide enough for any of the hooks on here except for the back one. It's a strange system. I'm not a fan. I don't like that. But they do work. I just don't like it. So, 6 amp battery, it fits in the tray just fine. You've got 6mm and 4mm extra on top of the Z80C hard case 6 amp. Same hard case size as the 5200. There's a 7500 soft case that doesn't quite fit, so I'd say get the 6000 if you want 3S. Although this will take 4S, I reckon 3S is your sweet spot. Now, I'm not the guy to talk to about monster trucks because I'm not in America, which is really the home of big monster trucks. This is not going to be the same kind of durable hard basher as your Creighton, your Kagama from like the bigger 1/8 scale stuff. This is definitely 1/8 scale, but it's more for scale monster truck fun. But having run it a bunch, it's still plenty rugged. And next to the Kyosho USA 1, I think we're going to find the Losi is more rugged. Interesting as this car is. Let me know in the comments if you'd like to see me do this one on video. I haven't done it yet. It's steel and a chain drive, quite an interesting thing. Quite a different beastie too. So he'd be a fun one to do. But as far as size goes, they are same wheelbase, same kind of width once you get the demolishers on. Interesting car. But monster trucks are not my bag, so I can't really tell you much about their faithfulness to the design beyond what I've seen on the likes of Kevin Talbot and friends. Obviously there's a man who's into monster trucks. But the chassis and the axles all are quite legit. The exhaust pipes are a nice touch out the side. It is axle mounted steering, but it's very effective. It has a very nice, soft servo saver on it, which I'd be inclined to keep. Yes, you get slop, but real monster trucks have slop as well, and that's fine with me. The one thing this has that you may not be familiar with is the Losi push drive that will allow some movement front and rear. It's actually quite a stiff middle diff, but it works very well and it seems to be very durable. So I'm quite happy with that. Let me just bung some power in. Power's in, power button's on this side. It is programmable with the firmware programming box that I have, but I haven't had to do that because out of the box this thing is really good. Hold down the power button on the back of the DX3. If you haven't met the DX3 before, you've got a throttle limiter, which might be good for first timers because this thing is fast. Believe me when I say it's fast. 50, 75 and 100%. It's a 3-channel, but you're not going to need that extra channel on this particular car. And you also have adjustable brake rate and the ABC, which is the traction control. Hit the 3. That tells you 3 cell. One nice thing about my 3D printed body is that you can just put it on its lid and it'll happily sit on its lid. Now, I ran this through a bunch of water and made a short about it last year. One thing I should have done and didn't do was to put a little bit of electrical tape over the holes, the breathing holes, the vent holes in the wheels. And so these foams were full of water and they're glued, so I couldn't get them off. Over time, I've been squeezing them out, and they're finally at a point where all but one are completely dry. This last one still has a bit of water in it, but only a bit, thankfully. So if you're gonna run wet, this car will take it just fine. It is waterproof. Just be prepared to run some light machine oil on your unis. I also put a dab of light oil on all the stainless steel ball ends in all the links in the sway bar as well. Yeah, there are 2 sets of 2 holes inside these wheels, and of course water got right in there. And the problem with water getting in is that it's a ballast in the tires, and boy, you get some wiggle. Let's just see. I'm holding it down and it is flat. She's got some speed. That's on 3S, not 4S. This will take 4S and it's ridiculous. Now, I said there's slop in the steering. You can go almost full throw with that steering and it'll flex. Bit of light machine oil in that spring as well definitely help. Now, we've got alloy knuckles and alloy everything now that I've replaced these axles. As much as these didn't break, I just am a lot happier running this thing. If you do the bumper on a King Sling or the orange one, you do need to move this shock mount. Just make sure it's all about neutral. Doesn't have to be completely flat when it's at full flex, but the flatter you get it, the more monster truck-like it'll be. I've got it pretty close, so most of our travel is upright, but when she's upright, there is also that natural bit of droop. Now you see it drops further in the back. If that bothered you, and I don't think it bothers me honestly, but you know what? Adding a bit of preload probably doesn't hurt. The preload's already at about 40%. I'm just going to move it to 50. Personal preference here, and getting the car, removing preload actually helps it be more stable because it runs lower, right? The other thing I might do, well, it needs a bit more lubrication actually. The other thing I might do is just remove some of the preload at the front because I don't think it's necessary to have almost any, given the way this truck sits currently. Again, my uneducated opinion. Look, I'm surrounded by cars here. I've played with preload a bunch. I've even designed different kinds of suspension, but the context matters. And in this case, I'm not a monster truck guy. I do have monster trucks, but I don't have much experience with how they handle. I do know that limiting straps is a good idea. I haven't blown the shocks on this yet, and I'm so far happy with the handling. I think that's a bit better. And there's going to be a barking dog to contend with, but let's go have some fun. Oh, at this juncture, I'm going to stick a quick ad in here. I don't have control over ads anymore. I used to. YouTube took it away from all of us YouTubers about 1.5 years ago. Now they determine when the ads happen. I can still make a suggestion, and I'll put an ad in after I finish this little pitch to you now.
It's the only ad that I'll stick in. So if you see any other ads, wasn't me. That was YouTube. I prefer to have as few ads as possible. This being a 20 to 30 minute video, I reckon having an ad in the middle is a fair exchange for you and me. There's one at the end and at the start, and the one in the middle, and you can skip them. I only ever use skippable ads, as far as I can remember. Do me a solid, guys, hit subscribe. That also helps get me in front of manufacturers. That makes not a lick of difference to you because the algorithm's going to show you what it thinks you want to see. So subscribers don't really matter anymore, except for manufacturers. It raises my profile as being a bigger channel. I might have all the views, but I don't have the subs, and I'm pretty sure that's what they're looking for. So hit that button for me. I'd really appreciate it. It'll help me bring you more stuff without having to open my wallet quite so wide all the time. And it costs you nothing. So please and thank you, do that. Right, let's drive this thing. Here's a quick ad, sorry about that, and let's roll. This really is a ridiculous car. It's fun. It handles like you'd expect, which is not well compared to many other cars. But as far as a monster truck goes, it gives me confidence that I can be stupid. Experiment with things and it'll just keep taking. Now, I said I broke the plastic axles on the second time. I said I broke the plastic axles the second time I was out, but the kind of air I was getting before. Really where 3D printed body makes sense. You see how compact it is? How that's at maximum brake, by the way, unless I modified it yet. So you see how little overhang there is on the axles. The wheelie bar footing will stress the back, and it eventually will stress and brake. But this allows roly-poly ceilings that you couldn't do with the original body because it was too long. And the back of that Sling, just be aware, if you get too close, you're going to kill it. You just are. Now, you hear me say the phrase air authority. I'm not talking about aviation. When you're in the air and you accelerate, here I'll show you on camera. When you're in the air and you accelerate, the nose will come up. Right? Now watch what happens when you brake. See how the nose goes down when you brake? Right? So in the air, the same thing's happening. Your wheels are already turning. Accelerating will pick the nose up, braking will drop it down. So when I say air authority, a car that has air authority is a car that will give you that physics difference in the air. So if you're out of shape in the air and you want to land on your wheels, you can do that. You can adjust the speed of your wheels. So if I'd accelerated, you can't see that unfortunately, if I'd accelerated, we'd have landed on our wheels. And lastly, we shall put this thing in the least appropriate environment. Power button's an easy reach with this, by the way. Now the track is really the least appropriate place for this car. Why are we here? Oh, and I need to straighten that track out too. Well, the reason we're here is to give you an idea relative to other cars, how this thing handles. Because it's something of a baseline. It's not going to be that accurate because I'm just talking and, you know, basically trying to steer it around a kidney-shaped course. But the reason I'm doing this is so that you can see how it handles, you know, how it handles when it's cornering at speed. Something consistent with jumping too. In fact, I haven't gone the other way with this jump yet, which needs to be smoothed out. Now these tyres aren't going to come with the LMT or the Sling, being that they're Proline demolishers, but this is going to be more like, you saw I broke then and well, braked and put the front down. This is going to be more like what you get with the LMT. The other thing to tell you about the LMT is that it is actually a slightly shorter wheelbase. The Sling is slightly longer. What about tight? And now, again, the stock body isn't gonna handle that so gracefully. It's another nice thing about having this 3D printed body. You get, I think, you get a nicer top on it. It rolls smoother. And I really haven't bothered, since I've worked out that it's PLA plus, I really haven't bothered about breaking the body. The roof is still PETG, that's why it's cracked a bit. But it's just a happy little truck now. And quite honestly, you see how it just lands? Like it has a mass to it, you know? Like it's not a light car. I haven't weighed it in its current state, I'll do that. But it just flies beautifully. I said it's not going to be comparable to many other cars, but one thing it does do so well, despite its apparent mass and its apparent crazy high center of gravity, and its relatively short wheelbase for what it is, it just sails through the air happily. Even with, you know, live front axle, live rear axle, it's predictable is what it is. Now this is going to be a lot to do with Losi's very, very talented engineers, not my talented driving obviously, but they're talented engineers getting the diff and like all the 3 diffs. This is going to have a lot to do with Losi's very talented engineers getting the diffs correct, you know, not too stiff, not too loose. It just does what you want it to do. There are no surprises with this car, and I think that might be one of my favorite parts about it. It's just stupid fun. And the limiting straps, again made of paracord, they're working just fine as well. So yeah, leaking shocks are a shame. 2 out of 4 are leaking. But I mean, we're having fun, aren't we? Since I printed all this stuff, I've learnt quite a bit about printing profiles, because with the bamboos I have really reliable, consistent results. Now, you see the cross-hatched kind of infill I used there, that's the wrong infill to use, and it's also it was the right way to print it, but this is PETG. I didn't realise until it snapped just then. PETG will do that. PLA Plus has like more of a rubbery feel to it. It's still firm, but I dare say it'll take a knock better. If I broke this again, I think what I'd do is I'd purchase or make a steel little thing. Same thing, you don't need to be this thick, just thin plates. You could have the 3D printed middles, or you could just have aluminium standoffs. There's another word, I use them all the time in my building. Get the right width, you know, I've got one right there in the front. Use that instead in your bull bar and you'll be fine. It'll take it, and in fact mild steel is better because it'll bend rather than snapping. I'm going to still 3D print, I'll try it again, and I'm going to use a different infill. I'll fiddle. I'll make all of this available on the website, RC-TNT.com. You can download all of this stuff. I won't link Redbeard Ron's stuff. I won't give you that to download. I'll give you the link to where to get it. And you can download my stuff as well, and together it'll make this. I'll link where I got this from, I'll link where I got these from, and where I got those from. And remember, it was paracord for the limiting straps. It's not the only thing to make it out of, but it's nice and strong. I use paracord for so many things. It's a really useful material. This is a beautiful car. I'm quite a fan. We haven't stripped it down and done a close look at it because this thing's been out for so long that I'm sure that's been done. And if you're interested in this platform, have a look on YouTube if you haven't already. There'll be a bunch talking about how good of a monster truck this is and getting technical. That's for those people, and this is one thing I like about YouTube. We all can bring something different to the table and you can kind of choose what you like. I'm really all about the experience of the drive. We'll get technical sometimes. I mean, I'm soon going to release my entire range of crawling chassis for free, so stay tuned for that. Again, sub if you haven't, please, and thank you. But I'm all about the experience. What's the experience like for you when you drive it? For me, I'm not a monster truck guy. I love this car. I didn't expect to love it. I got it for the channel a while ago and I still wasn't hot on it, but the more I drive it, the more I like it. Oh, and I can't finish this video without thanking my supporters. Here they are, my channel supporters. This is the Scratch Build group. 3 tiers, top tier gets the name here, second tier and the top tier get to see this video before it's published, and the third tier get the emojis and the badge and just the warm fuzzies for helping support this channel. All of your support is very much appreciated. Thank you guys. I've run 8 or 10 battery packs through it now. First thing I've busted in a while, and it was a nasty landing. It's going to happen, but gee, I like this car. Speaking of likes, please throw me a like on this video. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I'll catch you again on RC-TNT. I've got a bunch more fun stuff coming up. I'm excited to show you. Thanks for sticking around. See ya.